Hi. So I was talking to my buddy Marc Clebanoff the other day, and we were chit-chatting, and I found out that he has some really cool things that are happening. He's a producer. He's a director. He was actually one of our. Sorry, I'm letting a bus pass. I'm actually at a Starbucks outside of an audition here in San Francisco, um, and. And so anyway, I was talking to my buddy Mark, and he was telling me about these cool things that he's been doing. And I thought I'd, you know, get on Facebook Live with him, and he could like talk about some of the things that he's had going on these last couple of weeks. And for those of you who don't know, Mark had been a consulting producer and our director for Hush the series a few years back. And some of you out there have seen the pilot. I will rebroadcast it this week. And but he's been such a great resource for me as a professional creative, and he's turned all of his knowledge into a online not a class, but it's going to be an online resource for anybody out there who is like me, wanting to do become a producer, or produce their own content. So I'm going to bring him live. Hang on just a second. Let's see if I can get him on right now. Yes, let's add. And then he could just tell you what he's been doing and what's going on. And hey, buddy,
Hey,
how you
what's up?
doing?
I'm good.
Yeah, you say you made it to your car.
I
So
made it far.
I gave a little explanation about what who you are, and how you've like been a really great buddy and resource to me as a producer, and taught me a lot of things along the way. 5 years back, and you were our consulting producer for Hush
Yeah.
when we were in pre-production, and then came on as a director and brought on so much talent. But anyway, so why don't we just talk about so what have you been up to?
So basically, most people who know me, I'm a producer and I'm a sales agent, so I have kind of a unique perspective from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And because I get hit up so much by mostly producers whose films I'm already handling sales for, a lot of them, when they're trying to get their next project off the ground, they come to me and they ask for help on how to groom it for distribution. So I've given a lot of advice and consultation to people, to try to figure out how to bridge the gap between the creative and the business. And because I was getting approached so much, a colleague of mine and I decided to make a online course out of it, so that we could
Oh,
offer my
okay.
experience and my war stories and my pitfalls and my successes with other people, so that they could learn from it and hopefully not make those same mistakes and learn from my
Uh-huh.
lessons.
Uh-huh.
So we're offering a free webinar on film finance and development, which is going to be tomorrow, Wednesday at 1 p.m. And
Uh-huh.
then again, and then we're going to do it again on Thursday evening for people who might have missed it. And eventually, people can sign up to actually do the online course. But the initial webinar, where I kind of take you through the whole thing, is free for everybody.
Oh,
So
so
that's it.
how long do you expect the webinar to last? This is the one that's going on tomorrow, right?
Correct. So I anticipate it'll probably be somewhere between an hour and an hour and a half. But then we're going to do a Q&A session at the end, so people can chime in, ask questions, and I can answer them live.
Okay.
So this is basically geared for producers, aspiring filmmakers, actors, writers, directors, basically anyone producing their own content. This is going to be very applicable for. And one of the biggest challenges for people, obviously, as you and I know firsthand, is raising money. So this
Yeah.
kind of deals with that topic of how to groom your project to actually have a genuine shot at not only raising money, but then being able to produce something that does that money well.
Uh-huh. So will you be talking about like hard things like pitch decks and what to write in your
Correct.
pitch decks and um,
Correct. A lot of it is about developing certain aspects of your project, specifically to build like the ultimate pitch deck for investors.
mhm.
Um, you know, uh, Pitching investors and even finding investors is a bit of an art form. So I give a lot of insights on it based on my own successes and my own failures and
Mhm.
what I've learned. And then again, because I also am a global distribution company, I kind of have the insight of the tail end of it too. So I see kind of the mistakes people made along the way and what they could have done early on to avoid those mistakes.
So I always think that, well, now I, being a better producer, it's taken me all these years to learn all this stuff. Um, you kind of need to know your end goal, and that's what you're talking about, is you need to know like how you're going to sell it in order to how to make it, and you have to have that in the pre-planning, the pre-production, and then go forward and know how to navigate all those little, like you said, those pitfalls. Is that
Right.
what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, a film is really set up for success or failure before it's ever made. Most creative people, most filmmakers and content creators, they go out and they kind of, I don't mean this in a bad way, but most people are not savvy to the business. They're kind of ignorant to it. So they go out and they figure they'll just make a great movie, get into a film festival and sell it. And unfortunately, like 25 years ago, that was very possible and very common. But in this day and age, with viral distribution and just the amount of movies being produced, it's a different landscape. It's a different market and a different challenge. So this is really about how to groom your project from square one to set it up so that it finds success once the film is done. Beyond just, I'm going to go to a film festival, this has basically everything they don't teach you in film school.
Mm-hmm.
I went to film school. Film school was great. I learned a lot of genre and history and theory, and I made some films. But when it came to the business of dealing with, investors, lawyers, unions, vendors, I mean, you name it, it's none of that stuff is really taught. And people really have, producing a movie is like launching your own business from scratch.
It is.
So you really have to understand the ins and outs of the business so that you can make it complement the creative. You know what you want to do, and now we're going to show you what you have to do, and then how to figure out how to kind of like navigate that graceful middle ground between the two.
So, in your experience, like doing all this, what's the most common pitfall you see with producers or young producers or filmmakers? Like, what's the most common thing you see happen repeatedly?
The most common thing I see is pitch decks that are, have very unjustified information, things that are just pulled off the internet. Most people don't have a legitimate distribution plan. And most people really don't have a clear idea of where to take their film when they're finished. It's really convenient for somebody to say, we're going to take our little indie film to Lionsgate or to Sony or whoever. But the reality is if those are, if you're only aiming at the top, you're not necessarily being realistic. And it's tough to, investors, most of them are pretty smart people. And they've made a lot of money and they're successful because they're smart. They understand business. So you need to be able to speak their language to solicit funds from them. And so if your big grand plan is just selling a dream, unfortunately, that's not enough. That's only half the battle. So we're really going to get granular about, the things you have to do to complement the things you want to do.
Okay, so what's the difference between the online webinar that you're going to give for free tomorrow and Thursday and the one that's launching that you're promoting? I'm just curious. Like, what?
So the courses, there's going to be 3 courses over the course of about 6 months, and initially I'm going to host them live so that people can interact and ask questions as we go. The first course, which we're going to launch later this month, it's going to be about finance and development. The second one will be very production centric, and the third one will be all about distribution. The webinar, again, is our just introduction to the course. It is very detailed, but it's more of the what as opposed to the how. The course really gets into detail about the how, the ins and outs of how to go about things, whereas the webinar, we kind of take you step through step of what needs to happen at each phase of the process. So they're both very valuable. The webinar, people are going to get a ton of free information out of. The course is much more of a deep dive. But the webinar, like I said, it's tomorrow, Wednesday, and then another one on Thursday evening, and they're going to be kind of the introduction to the whole thing. And we're offering bonus materials for anybody who joins and stays through the end. And I think anybody who's creating their own content today is going to get a lot of valuable information out of it.
So this is for everybody. Anybody who wants to create something in the future, not just somebody who has something that they're working on right now, or maybe something that they've already worked on. This is just for anybody and everybody who wants to learn how
Right.
to navigate through the business of being a producer, right?
I
Or
pitch
maybe.
it like, yeah, I mean, I kind of pitch it like this. There's a lot of people trying to make movies. There's very few people who actually make a living doing it. I make a living doing it,
You
sometimes
do.
successfully, sometimes not as successfully. But the idea is we want people to join who want to make a career out of it, not people who just want to do it as a hobby.
Yeah.
If you want to do it as a hobby, do whatever you feel like doing. If you really legitimately want to make a career out of producing content and making films, that's the audience we're catering to.
So I've learned there's a lot of different ways of distributing now, especially with all the social media platforms, and I get mixed information about how those are going to work in the future, as far as like distributing content, like what you and I are doing. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that they're going to be big players in the future, like Facebook and YouTube? I mean, I think YouTube is already a big player, but I'm just saying they're going to advance even further, like the big television companies, the networks. What do you think?
There is definitely going to be major innovations in the coming years because the film market is kind of like an economy. It's organic and it shifts and it adjusts itself and corrects itself. What those innovations are going to be are to be determined. Right now, we're kind of in the Wild West. Everyone's trying to figure out the best ways to monetize content. And the big problem is there's just so much to choose from. And it's hard to get people to pay for stuff when there's so much available to them for free. So I think a lot's going to change in the coming years. But right now, there are very clear-cut, proven ways to be successful and make films that are successful. And also, it depends how you judge success. Is your film successful because you got it into some theaters? If film successful is if it actually made money. Because if a film makes money, that means you're likely going to get a good shot at making another film. Most people don't set out to make one film. They want to make film after film after film.
That's true.
Really to make a successful film, you need to make a film that's going to generate revenue. And that's not pie in the sky. It's not lightning in a bottle. That's something you have to go about very almost surgically.
Got it.
Yeah.
One of my hardest things is trying to figure out what a pitch is.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's one of those things that you just need to get in front of people and just do it.
And that's exactly what the webinar this week is going to be, is really about how to groom your project and how to groom the pitch deck so that it's taken seriously and not dismissed. And then we're going to give away some free stuff to kind of like help people build their own. I guess I should give out the website too, huh?
Yeah, that'd be great. Or you know what, I could just drop a link at the bottom of this feed, and everybody can click on it. And yeah,
that would be great. Yeah, I mean it's indiefilminsandouts.com. But yeah, if you can post the registration link for the webinar, it is free. We're doing it tomorrow, Wednesday at 1 p.m. And then there's going to be another one on Thursday evening, I believe at 6 p.m.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, I'll be there for sure.
Great.
Yeah, but
come up with some good questions for me.
Oh yeah, okay.
we want them to be very interactive because I'm going to give you a ton of free information, but I want people to tell me what they specifically want to know so that I can tailor it to people.
Okay, so is this specific to film, or will you be highlighting like series, like television series? Would you, or because there are two different animals, I think.
Yeah,
or,
I mean,
am I wrong?
My principal business is feature films.
Mm-hmm.
I am working in television to an extent, but not as much as I'd like to be. Feature films are really my expertise, but we can absolutely digress down the road of like web content and content, because I do have a lot of knowledge, but like I said, most of my track record is with producing and selling feature films.
Got it. And if anybody wanted to come meet you, they just like run into you at AFM. Are you going to be there this year?
I'll be at MIPCOM in Cannes next month, and then I'll be at AFM exhibiting, selling movies. And eventually down the road, we're going to try to do some live events. But for now, it's going to be the webinars and then the courses. And I hope a lot of people sign up and take advantage, and ultimately sign up for the course as well, because it's the type of thing that I think is really missing, is that knowledge. And I had to learn it through trial and error. It took me years to learn what I've learned. And I'm only relatively good at what I do now because I've made most of the mistakes.
Yeah, and they're really painful.
That they are.
So if you're going to do live events, you want to come up to San Francisco and do the Actors Conference next year?
Absolutely, I'll do the Actors Conference, and then we do a whole separate event. If if enough people want it, I'll go anywhere in the world and do an event.
Cool. Well, you know what? I'm gonna get started on that then.
Cool.
Well, I have been working
on
it. But...
Yeah, the first webinar is tomorrow at 1 p.m. and then there's another one Thursday. I'm pretty sure it's 6. It may be 5. I will double check. And tomorrow's webinar, I will announce it, obviously.
Okay.
But the website is indiefilminsandouts.com. And then if you could post the registration link, it would be great.
I will do that in a few minutes. And I'm really excited, and congratulations on this. This is a lot of work. I know what it's like to put one of these together. It's a lot. It is
a lot of work.
Yeah.
What kind of coffee are you drinking?
It's Starbucks.
Okay.
Nothing exciting. You can get it anywhere.
All right. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's watching. And feel free to hit me up on Facebook if you have questions.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Mark.
Right.
Mark. Bye.
Rosie. Bye.
Okay. So I just wanted to, Mark is a great friend, and he is a great resource, and he is a great filmmaker, and I say that from the bottom of my heart. And he has a love for filmmaking. So if he'll answer any question honestly. He'd give you the lowdown on anything that you had when it comes to producing or directing or selling. So any of you who are out there that are really serious about getting into producing, directing, making your own content, come join them. It's free. I will post the link. Sorry, I'm out here on Samsung, but I'll post the link, and you can click on it. Just register. Pick the date that works for you best, and I'll also put it in the newsletter. If you're not on my newsletter, I will also post that link, because actors, you do want to get on that and meet Mark maybe somewhere down the line. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.